Okay, awesome. We're 5 minutes in and we got a nice even number. In fact, not 2 people came in, but 4 more people came in. So I think that's a good sign to get started. I think some people will start to trickle in a little bit more, but we can go ahead and dive right in. Does that sound good to everybody? Give me a thumbs up or head nod or something if we're good to get started. Sweet. Okay. First of all, thank y'all for coming out. I really appreciate it. This is my first time speaking at SEA, and so very excited to share some things with you. My goal is to have a lot of time for Q&A and to be able to dive into specific questions, whether they're about anything we talked about here, about specific things that are going on in your business and your organization. And so we can kind of go from there. My goal is to keep it casual, but let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and it'll be a party officially. Cool. All right. Can everyone see the title slide up here? Rad. Okay, cool. The only thing is that I'm not sure I'll be able to see the chat while this window is up. But we can go ahead and check it after with Q&A. Or, I don't think it's a big deal if any of you, have a pressing matter or whatever, anything comes up, feel free to unmute yourself and we can kind of have a conversation that way, but we're good to go. Cool. All right, let's do it. So this talk is about how to turn your message into a movement, and I'll explain in a second why that is pretty important, but I have a feeling that if you're here already, I think you might know. So we're going to cover some things that you might already know. I'm going to give you some ideas and some frameworks, and I think some things that maybe you don't know, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a great framework and just a great sense of how to put these things together and how to actually implement the things that you're going to learn today into your business, into your organization, so that you can have the impact that I believe you were put on the earth to make. So let's get into it. First of all, my name is Zach. I'm the founder of a company called Mission Driven Impact. We're a communications training and education company. And we help nonprofit founders and social entrepreneurs get the word out, increase their revenue, and of course, make an impact. So first of all, let me tell you why we're here. Most founders have a big vision, not just to start a business, but to spark a movement. I feel is to transform their community and maybe even change the world, right? The problem is that something's missing, right? We've got the vision, that's a very important, but a lot of us, just to be honest, fail to inspire people to take action, even from a business or organizational perspective, whether it's investing with us, whether it's donating to our cause, whether it's buying our product. And so I always say, if we can't even inspire people to buy a product or give a small donation, how are we going to inspire them to become part of a broader movement for social change, right? And so the thing is that the foundation of every successful movement is the way that a leader communicates with their audience, right? So we're going to be talking today a little bit more about the foundation of mass movements and things like that. But this is really the idea that I want you to keep in mind. In the next hour or so, my goal is to get you to believe that the way you communicate as an organization, whether you want to call this strategic communications or marketing, or just talking about what you do, the way that you communicate as an organization is key to creating that movement. And so along with getting you to believe that, I'm going to equip you with a 3-part framework based on patterns that all mass movements have in common that are going to make it simple for you to implement into your own business or organization. Sound good? Cool. I hope so. First of all, who's this for? Let me tell you if you're in the right spot. First base, I suppose, is for beginners, right? I think this is a great talk to be at if you are just starting your business organization, if you're the ideation phase, maybe you're new in your role, because this is going to give you everything that you need to create a solid foundation. Because from the beginning, you have the vision, right? And so let's do this right from the beginning. But it's also good if you've been in it for a while, because what I find is that a lot of organizations that I work with or just that I see, it's like they've got all these pieces, but they're kind of scattered, right? They've got all the dots, but they're not connected. And so this talk is going to be great if you've been in this for a while, but you need to be able to put everything together. Similarly, this is great for a nonprofit audience. I know that here at SEA, we've got kind of a mix of people in the for-profit world, nonprofit world. This is great for things like selling your product, for getting investment, and for a bunch of other stuff. But just as well, it's going to help for nonprofit folks. If you're looking for donors, if you're looking for supporters, oh, great. I can see the chat. That's wonderful. Boom. Okay, but I'm not going to let that distract me. But do know if you pop something in the chat, I'll see it. Anyway, this is great for nonprofit folks as well. If you need donors, if you need supporters, especially with end of year giving, Giving Tuesday, things like that, lots of stuff happening. We're all prepping for 2023, putting our budgets and just our strategic plans together. This is going to be a great talk, so you know exactly what you need to be focused on. Okay, one more thing is that, first of all, I don't have anything to sell you, but today we are going to cover a lot of ideas, and ideas can take a while to process. I want to give you a high-level overview of a lot of the things that I'm thinking and the framework, and I want to allow a lot of time for Q&A to dive into specific questions. As I was writing this and I was thinking about all the things that I wanted to say, I realized, let's just do something casual. I'm literally, I'm not even in my office. I'm coming at you from my bedroom. My bedroom is not this blurry in real life, but Zoom is wonderful. Just lost my train of thought. Anyway, the point is that if you want to talk more specifically about how to apply the things that we're going to talk about into your business and your organization, whether that's to cap off the end of the year giving season, whether that's to prepare for next year, or if you just want to chat about these ideas because you find them interesting and you want to know where to go from here, you can go to my website, missiondrivenimpact.com/SEA. I bet you can figure out what that stands for. Book a 30-minute call with me. Anyone, let me know if the Calendly link doesn't work or anything. I just put it up a couple minutes ago, but book in a call with me. And again, I don't have anything to sell you. If I think we're a great fit to work together, obviously I'll let you know. But really that is just my time to, deliver as much as I can. I think all of this only matters to the extent that you actually implement it. And so if you're here just looking for ideas and just looking to consume more information, I'm going to tell you right away, I don't think that this is going to be a very valuable session for you. I don't think it's a very valuable session to I don't think it's a very valuable way to consume things that are going to help you actually move forward. And so I want to just devote a little bit more of my time to you. That 30-minute call, don't feel like it's a burden or anything like that. That is completely free for you to use. That's my thank you to say, really just to say thanks for coming. Okay, let's jump in. There's something that mass movements, from religious movements to political movements to household business names like Tesla or Disney or Apple, there's something that they all have in common. And the cool thing is that when you understand these things and you apply them to your business, to your organization, you'll be able to build authority with the people that you feel called to serve and the people that can support that mission. Of course, you'll be able to attract those supporters in the first place. And most importantly, you'll be able to actually inspire people to take the action you need them to take in order to move that mission forward. Let me tell you just quickly about myself and why I'm here. First of all, in the past couple of years, really in the past year or so that we've been doing this current training, communications training gig, we've helped dozens of nonprofit and social enterprise founders across the country and even in other places around the world to get the word out, to increase revenue through investment, sponsorship, sales, donations, things like that. And of course, to make an impact that I believe that we were all put on the earth to make. Me personally, I started in this as a copywriter. I was copywriting for a lot of nonprofits. I was doing marketing work for just people that had great ideas to change the world. They needed to get the word out. But I always felt like something was missing. And without getting too much into the details, what would happen is, I would bring in myself and my team. We would write a bunch of good stuff. We would even get results. We'd increase web traffic for people. We'd really get the message in front of people. But it's like the minute we stopped working together, those organizations were back at square one. And that just didn't really feel right for my moral compass. I knew that what I wanted to do was to empower people and empower organizations with the capacity to grow long-term. I always say, I would love for you to work with me for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and and still feel that effect 5-10 years down the road, even if you never talk to me again. Of course, I would love if you kept talking to me after that time, but that's my goal, is how do we equip your organization to actually be able to use these things and implement these things and continue to grow in the long run. So that's why I started what we're doing. As well as what I'm going to talk to you about today is actually just the key driver we've seen in my own company, right? I don't teach anything that I don't do myself, right? We really practice what we preach. And the key driver for us is simply the right message. I can't tell you, every day I'm on calls with people and I hear, whether they stumble on my website or they heard me speak somewhere, or even I just say something in passing, they're like, Zach, you really just speak to where we're at. You really adequately speak to what we're going through, what we want, what we desire, what our problems are. It really comes down to the right message. And so I don't have any fancy marketing tricks. I'm not like an ads wizard. I don't have anything special. It's just, I know how to put the right message in front of people. And I'm going to teach you how to do the exact same thing. So what it all comes down to is that in our communication, we always want to be mindful of the fact that people are always on a journey, and that's a journey of transformation. Some of you may be familiar with something called the hero's journey. It's sort of a framework that all great stories, movies, plays, books, and of course, all great business communications are based off of, right? And I'll walk you through a little bit more of the hero's journey and a messaging framework in a little bit. But the overarching concept is that your customers, your donors, your supporters, the people that you feel called to serve, your audience, all of us, we're all constantly on this journey of transformation. There's actually two journeys of transformation. One is a journey of what we're trying to accomplish. One, of course, is a journey of who we're trying to become, whether that's as an organization or whether that's in our role, right? That's the one that I want to talk about today. And so how do we facilitate transformation, especially in communications? This is something I learned, is that the movement is what changes people. That's why it's important to turn your message into a movement. That's why it's important whether you are, in charge of a nonprofit that has a great cause, or you're selling spatulas for grilling. No matter what it is, it's important that you create a movement around what you're doing, because that is what changes people. The product you have, the service you offer, the program that you run, that's just a tool. It's the movement that changes people and gets them to become who they're trying to become. In order to do that, here's the framework I'm going to share with you today. If you're familiar with Russell Brunson, if you're familiar maybe with Donald Miller, if you're familiar with a lot of people in the business crowd, some of this may seem familiar, but it's what I like to call a trifecta of influence. There's really three things you need here. One is that every organization needs to have a leader. Every movement needs to have a leader, right? And the best way to be a leader is to position yourself as a guide. We'll talk in a second about what that means and how to do that. The second thing you need is a new opportunity. Some people call this like a blue ocean opportunity. Most people say they have a blue ocean opportunity and they totally don't. So, I'd love to open some of that up in Q&A. But what we need is a chance for people to become involved in something different, right? Not just something better, something different. And the third thing, of course, is we need a mission. I think all of us here, based on the audience and where we're all at, I think a lot of us have a mission. A lot of us have a future-based cause, as some people call it. However, I want to dig in a little bit about why most missions actually are completely uninspiring. And when it comes to inviting people to become part of a movement, inspiration is a must. So we'll talk about how to implement all of these three things into your business and your organization. Let's start with the first one, the guide. And the question here is what does it mean to show up as a leader, specifically in your communications? Because remember, the foundation of a movement is the way that a leader communicates with their audience, with their followers. So what does it mean to show up as a leader? Well, what this really comes down to is your messaging and your positioning from a business and an organization standpoint. There's something I really love, and I use with my clients, all my clients love it. It's called the story brand framework. This is kind of based out of a book called Building a Story Brand, which if you haven't checked it out, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Now, Story Brand is also a company that does things, they have a child company called Business Made Simple University, and they offer courses and things like that. But the story brand framework is a brand messaging framework. Again, I'm not affiliated in any way, by the way. I just really love and respect this framework. It's based on the hero's journey. There's 7 steps to it. First of all, there's a character, right? Think about your favorite movie, think about your favorite play, or think about your marketing if you want, but there's always some sort of character. And the character, spoiler alert, it's not you, right? Your character is the people that you're called to serve. The character is the people that you are appealing to. If you're walking into an investment meeting, it's your investor. If you're asking someone for a major gift, it's your donor or your sponsor. If you're asking someone to buy your product, that's who the character is. So a character has a problem, right? They want something, but something's standing in their way. Or else, wouldn't really be much of a story, right? It's like, imagine Star Wars, but except there's no such thing as Darth Vader or the Death Star. Not really Star Wars, is it, right? Imagine a business or an organization, but there's not really people to help. Not really a business or an organization, is it, right? We are in business for a reason, that is to help people with a problem. So a character has a problem, something standing in their way, and they meet a guide. That is us. A guide understands their fear, understands what they're going through. The guide then gives them a plan, calls them to act upon that plan, and when the hero does, they can avoid failure, right? It's like the bomb is about to go off and I got to defuse it, and there's 1 second left on the clock. And if I execute the plan, bomb doesn't go off, right? We achieve success, save the day, right? And so all of this has a place in your marketing, in your communications. Again, whether you're a for-profit business, whether you're a nonprofit organization, even just the way you show up as a person in your personal branding, right? Think about who is the people that you're trying to serve. Like, what is it that they want? What's standing in their way? How can we show up with empathy and authority to say, I get it, I care? What kind of plan can we give them? How can we lift the fog for them and say, hey, step 1, step 2, step 3, here's how we can get to the other side? What do we need to do to call them to action so that they say, okay, like, we got to move, right? This is something that we actually have to do, right? There's urgency. How do we draw out the stakes and the consequences, right? Again, we are in business for a reason. It's usually because of something important. What is it? What's at stake? Why is this urgent? What are the consequences if this problem continues to exist in the world? And of course, the other side of the coin is, when people do work with us and when people do donate to our cause, when people do follow us into that movement, into that, further into the journey of transformation, what does success look like, right? What does it mean to be successful? How does their life become better? How does society become better? What's the vision for the world we want to create? That's that. Again, there's a lot more I could say on this. I do a lot of coaching on just this specifically. And so I'd love to open this up in Q&A if you have any questions. Let me just dive a little bit deeper into the guide section. What is that? Step 3. What does it mean to be a guide? Every guide needs 2 things. I already hinted to it. First thing you need is empathy. Empathy says, I get it. Empathy says, I care. I know what you're going through. It's like when you're chatting with a friend, maybe you're at a bar, at dinner, whatever, and maybe they're going through a breakup, or their business is not doing so well, or maybe I don't know, they had some sort of sickness or whatever. You can use your imagination and imagine that they're just so frustrated and they're kind of venting it out to you, and you put your hand on their shoulder and you say, you know what, like, I get it, man. I know what you're going through. That's empathy. That's understanding. But it's not enough just to say, I get it. You need to also be able to help. You need to be competent. That's where authority comes into play. So imagine you walk into the gym and you look for a personal trainer, and let's say you need to shed that last 10 pounds, and your personal trainer says, oh man, listen, I totally get it. I know how difficult it is to lose that 10 pounds. Like, I need to as well. Right? It's kind of like, okay, I don't know if you're actually the person, like, you get it. I don't know if you're actually the person that can help. But imagine on the flip side, you walk into the gym and you're like, man, I need to lose this last 10 pounds. And your personal trainer says, well, yeah, maybe you should stop being so fat and lazy, right? Okay, I think maybe you just didn't quite understand what I'm going through. Maybe you're jacked and shredded and you can help, but the empathy wasn't there, right? Every guy needs both, right? You need to say, I get it, I care, and I actually have the credentials, the competence, the authority to help. So here's how to actually get started with this in your business, because I know this can be abstract, talking about like plot lines and stuff like that. Here's how we actually do this in your business or your organization. You start implementing this messaging framework, the character, the problem, the guide, the happy ending, everything in your website copy. So right away, when your website loads, I want to see a big headline that says, that calls out exactly what I want to accomplish in the world, exactly who I want to become. Right? I want to see maybe a problem section, like, so I know that you understand what I'm going through. And I think, okay, these people get it. They understand the problem. Do they have the solution? Right. I want you to, be really clear about the solution, not just stuff like the features of what you're doing. Like, here's all the little things that come with our program or our product or our service or whatever. I want you to say, here's the plan of how we actually get you to the other side. And here's why that's important. Right. So of course, your website copy is essential. Start doing this in your email marketing, end of year giving campaigns, any kind of around the holidays, any kind of product launches, things like that, right? You start using this framework and all of that. And again, if you have questions about how to specifically do this, let's open up in the Q&A. Of course, in your social media content, so many of us just publish pictures or text or whatever. Most people who say they're doing social media marketing aren't making any sales or donations from social media. This is one reason why, right? If we just constantly post about ourselves, I mean, it's not that we're not great. It's not that we're not doing something important, but remember, we're not the main character. We have to show up as the guide. In your presentations and in your pitches, you might have noticed, what's the first thing I started with when I started talking? Why are we here? It's a problem. We have vision, but we don't know how to inspire people, right? Now I'm walking you through the solution, right? So again, just practicing what I preach here. You can do this in your presentations, in your pitch deck to investors, into major gift donors, things like that. And of course, everywhere else, right? This is really a framework whether it's specifically the story brand framework or just anything like it. This is the idea that should be powering all of your strategic communications. Again, this is less about tactics. This is less about, all the little nitty gritty things you should be doing, and more about the general idea of you should be showing up as a leader. And to do that, you need to be showing up as a guide. That's how you get people bought into a movement. Okay. Again, I know this is kind of a lot. This is sort of high level ideas. So if you got questions, jot them down. We'll open it up. The second thing we need, right, is a new opportunity. How do you cut through the noise, right? So many of us are doing good things, but so are a lot of other people, right? And it's hard to stand out. It's hard to stand out from a competition, right? Especially if we're doing things online. I mean, we're bombarded with millions of pieces, maybe billions of pieces of information every day, advertisements, things, on our Facebook or our LinkedIn feeds or whatever. How do we actually stand out, cut through the noise? Well, a new opportunity is one way to do that. I love this quote from Russell Brunson. He says, our goal isn't to fix what's not working. It's to replace what's not working with something altogether different. And I encourage those of us who, of course, I guess it's all of us thinking about social impact and wanting to change the world. It's usually because we see something in the world and we're like, you know what, that's not quite the way it should be, right? There's like a little bit of a difference between what is and what ought to be. But our goal isn't to fix that thing what's working. I would really encourage you to think about, how do we just replace that with something different? I tell my clients all the time, people aren't coming to you because they're not trying something. It's because what they're trying isn't working, or the organization they're donating to, it's not satisfying, right? Their desire for impact, maybe. Maybe the role or the job that they're working in, right? Again, it's not like they're not working. It's that what they're working for, what they're working toward, maybe the kind of culture they're in, it's not working for them. It's not satisfying them. Right? Another thing is that this isn't just building a better mousetrap. I know that's kind of a common business phrase, common book out there. But I would personally say that's not real. There's a time and place for it, but I think it's really not the right way to think about what we want to be doing, right? We don't want to be building a better mousetrap. We want to be building something different, right? Because that, again, it's not just about business. It's about how we get people to be bought into a movement and to take that journey with us. How do we get people to follow us as we guide them to where they want to be, a better place for them? We can't just build a better mousetrap. We got to invite them to something different. And of course, this is what blue ocean means. It's such an overused business phrase, but what it really means is that the category is you, like you're different, right? The blue ocean isn't just like a part of the ocean that is blue and not red. It's like yours is a different ocean. You're a different pond, right? And so offering a new opportunity is a way to do this. And so I think that the best way to kind of start to communicate this a little bit more to you is just give you some examples of what getting different looks like. And I think a lot of us are familiar with most of these. So the first one, of course, Tom's, buy one, give one. Now, a lot of organizations do buy one, give one now, but when Tom's was on the scene, it wasn't so popular. I mean, that was one thing that really boosted them to success. It was just, people have sold shoes for as long as shoes have been around, right? But people didn't necessarily have this model of impact. It was something different. I can buy shoes from Nike, which are great and cool and love Nike. Or I can buy shoes from Tom's and there's something different about it. And it's not necessarily the shoes, although that is part of it, but it's this way that I can actually have impact, right? TerraCycle, right? Not just a better recycling company. In fact, there's maybe an argument to be made they're not even a recycling company at all. They're eliminating the idea of waste altogether, right? And so there's a lot of recycling companies out there. There's companies that say we recycle more than the competition. We eliminate more waste than other people in our industry. That's how we quote unquote prove our impact. TerraCycle is like, where does eliminating the idea that there is even waste to be recycled? Like that's the ultimate goal. That's the movement that they're creating, right? And so a lot of people buy into it. Kiva, of course, I think is a really cool example. I studied economics in university. And so Kiva really popularized the idea of microfinance and microlending versus traditional development that a lot of people have had, issues with in the past, whether it's because of issues of patriarchy or colonialism or just, big development dollars going into other countries. And, there's issues with that. With Kiva, they popularized something different, a new opportunity, right? It wasn't just a better way to develop. It was something totally different that I could get behind. Charity Water has the 100% model, right? And so that's, again, they're not the only people that do this, but even now, it's not so common to see this all the time that 100% of the money I donate is going to go directly to providing water for communities that need it. I just saw, I wish I could remember, but I just saw something like yesterday. It was a nonprofit that was like 100% of the money you donate goes directly to programs, right? Because, our overhead and things like that is funded in other ways, right? And so I know, right, that's a big, maybe a big hesitation I have as a donor is like, where exactly is my money going? Well, I know 100% of it is going to go to actually achieving the impact that I'm donating to this organization to in the first place, right? That's a way of getting different, right? Their program, what they're doing isn't necessarily different. The way they're doing it is different. And the socks I'm wearing today, I had to add this one. Some of you may be familiar with Smart Wool. And I remember one time years ago, my girlfriend in Colorado at the time bought me a pair of Smart Wool socks. And I was like, what is this? I didn't realize socks are made out of anything but cotton. And I realized it's not just better socks, right? Wool clothes, now they have like shirts and stuff like that, jackets. Wool clothes aren't just better clothes. They're not just better socks. They're different, right? It's an entirely different thing. Now I'm completely an evangelist. I don't wear any socks that are not made out of wool. I really drank the Kool-Aid there. Or you could say, I bought into the movement, right? Wool socks. Socks should be made out of wool, not cotton, right? And so that I think is a fun example. There's one more thing I want to say is that, as I'm giving you these examples, you might be thinking, how exactly do I do this for my business or for my organization? And I would just say, start small. Right. The creativity process comes, but one of my favorite examples is RX bar. I never eat these kind of like protein bars or snack bars, whatever, except for RX. And why is that? Well, it's because, their company stands for clean, simple ingredients. And their branding is they put all the ingredients right there on the front. You're walking through Trader Joe's, you're walking through Sprouts or Whole Foods or whatever. You see a bar and it's like 6 eggs, like 3 almonds. I mean, that'd be a big bar, but you know what I mean? It's like, eggs, almonds, dates, whatever. Again, there's a lot of companies that do snack bars, right? There's there. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, but the way they're presenting themselves is different. It seems like a new opportunity. And of course, myself, I would say in my company, to be completely transparent, I'm not the only one doing what I'm doing. My company is not the only company doing what we're doing, but I am the only one like me doing what I'm doing, right? Whether that's branding or personality or the way that I go about it. And I think what this comes down to, again, I've got to prevent myself from digressing, but it's really about embracing authenticity. So what does that mean to do that in your business and your organization? How do you embrace your authenticity and who you really are and what that identity really looks like? Right? I might even also add that the idea of social enterprise, which we're all interested in here, the idea of social enterprise in general is sort of a new opportunity contrasted to like the way philanthropy and nonprofits have traditionally been in the past. Even nonprofits themselves are really transitioning to more to self-sustaining models and social enterprise models and things like that, right? But I think when social enterprise really came onto the scene, especially in the United States, it was a new opportunity. It was something different. It's like we could have this impact, but through a different vehicle, right? That itself is a new opportunity. So again, if we need some more ideas, I want to dig into how to do this specifically with your business or organization. Let's open it up in the Q&A. Okay, the third and final thing in our trifecta of influence you need is, of course, the cause. It's our mission. How do you actually inspire people with it? Because the truth is that most mission statements totally suck. And it's not because the mission itself isn't good. It's not because we're not doing good work. It's because the way we're communicating it isn't getting people bought in. And so I just want to touch a little bit on how to communicate your mission. First of all, it should be short, it should be descriptive, it should be recitable. I think that last part is really important. In your business, in your organization, how many of you can actually recite your mission statement? Half of us wrote the damn thing and can't even recite what we wrote. Do you think our team could? Do you think in your next all hands meeting, you could point to someone who is admittedly really passionate about the cause in your organization? You could say, hey, remember our mission statement? Can you just remind me what it is real quick? In my experience, not a lot of people can do that, right? Donald Miller has this great quote that if we or our teams can't recite our mission statement, we're not on our mission. We've forgotten the mission, right? And so it needs to be sound biteable, right? And again, I think this is different than a lot of advice that people or other consultants or whatever would give about your mission statements and things that need to be in it and your key messages and everything. It needs to be a soundbite. It needs to be something that we can all come to work and be like, I don't know. I had this experience this morning where my alarm went off and I was like, oh, why am I getting out of bed today? Oh yeah, I'm on a mission. It's recitable. I remember what it is. So here's just a quick example. It doesn't have to be like this, but this is, I think, a simple way to get the creative juices flowing. By X date, we will achieve Y result because of Z cause. By 2025, we are going to, drill 10,000 wells in communities that need it in Africa, because no human should be without clean water. Right? By 2030, we are going to we're going to reduce food waste in the United States by 20%, because it's important, for the environment and for things like that, right? This is where the cause comes in. Two, we have a slogan, right? As we're talking about mass movements, I heard, I'm actually currently in Mexico, but I heard that the other day was election day, at least where my parents live in Chicago. And have you ever seen someone run for president without a slogan? Yeah, probably not. They probably didn't get very far, right? I still remember Barack Obama. Yes, we can. That's a slogan, right? Hillary Clinton, I'm with her. Yeah, even Donald Trump, make America great again. Listen, I'm not saying I endorse these views, but a lot of people got behind that slogan. In fact, enough people got behind that slogan to make him the president, right? So have a slogan, something like spread the word, change the world. That's one that this isn't on my website, but it's one that I kind of play around sometimes in my marketing materials, right? Spread the word, change the world, right? What's a slogan that you could have that just captures your platform, what you stand for, what you do? The third thing is identify with a tribe, right? A lot of the reason that we become parts of movements is because we want to be in that environment, right? We identify with that community. So can you create a community or a tribe around what you're doing? Whether it's something you believe in, whether it's what you are doing through your product or your service, right? I think Lady Boss is a really cool example of this, if any of you are familiar, which is basically like being a badass fitness woman. And it's like being a lady boss means this thing, being a lady boss means this thing, being a lady boss means this thing. And now when people are bought into that business, you can say, you know what, I'm a lady boss. Some of you who might be familiar with ClickFunnels, right? The whole thing is like funnel hacking, right? And it's not just that we're building sales funnels. You can literally say, I'm a funnel hacker, right? I'm a change maker. Maybe it's one thing that a lot of social enterprise, organizations and associations do. Who are your people? Who are they? Can they say, I do this thing that other people don't? That's how we get people to identify with a tribe or with the communities, who they are or what they do. How can you do that in your business? Okay. Fourth thing would be publish a manifesto. I think a really great example of this is Mind Valley. Those of you who might be familiar with Vishen Lakhani and their whole idea, like their mission is to, inspire a change in human consciousness or something like that. Is like a really grand vision. And a lot of people really bought into the company. They've got a great manifesto on their site I would check out. I also have a small manifesto kind of draft on my website. People need to know what you stand for. A lot of us have core values, right? We say, oh, our core values are like excellence and passion and generosity, and all these things that don't really mean anything to anybody, right? When you publish a manifesto, there's weight behind it. Tell me what that means. Tell me what we stand for, right? A manifesto is like your flag, right? You plant that flag and you say, if you're part of our organization, if you give to this cause, if you follow us into this movement, if you buy a product, this is what this says about you. This is what we believe in, right? That's how you get people to rally around you. And I want to give you one bonus is that remember the journey of transformation for all of our stakeholders, right? This is especially the case I see for a lot of nonprofits where it's like, we're serving a certain demographic, but donors, they want to give the gift of like giving itself, of donating, right? How many of us donate to an organization and then think like, man, that has created severe lack in us? Maybe sometimes, but I think a lot of times we give a donation, we feel pretty good about it, especially when we get thanked, right? A lot of times we give to someone, we are of service to someone, feels good. It's a gift to be needed. It's a gift to be wanted, right? So remember the journey of transformation for everyone. Same thing with investors, whether they're, whether it's a VC, whether it's you're raising a friends and family round or doing a crowdfunding campaign, right? People are on this journey of transformation to become a certain person, to support you in a certain way, right? Give them that gift, right? It's not just about the quote unquote end user of your product or service, right? Everyone is on this journey of transformation. And so think about everyone that we touch, our employees, our investors, our donors, our beneficiaries, right? What journey are they on? How do we speak to that? Okay, so to recap, you want to turn your message into a movement with these three things, the trifecta of influence. Remember, of course, that communication is the foundation of every successful movement. You want to position yourself, the leader, of course, as the guide, right? A leader doesn't mean you're the person who's up front and you have to be the face of everything and you're the one making all the noise, right? Leaders eat last, Simon Sinek book or something like that. Position yourself as the guide, right? I know that the people I serve, they're trying to get somewhere, but something's standing in their way. So I'm going to show empathy. I get it. I'm going to show authority. I care. And I'm going to help them get to the other side, right? We're Yoda. They're Luke Skywalker. We're Dumbledore. They're Harry Potter, right? The second thing is give people a new opportunity. Actually blue ocean, right? Not just the lip service that we always give to it. Give people something different to come into, right? Our goal, again, remember, is not to fix what's not working, but to replace it with something altogether, right? So whether that's your offer, your product, whether that's the way you do things, you want to give something, you want to give people a new opportunity, something new to become involved in. And of course, the third thing is we want to rally supporters, not just around a mission, because we all have a mission, at least I hope so, but we want to rally people around an inspiring mission. And so much of that comes down to the way that we communicate it. So what I want to do for the remaining time is open this up to Q&A about if we want to dive any deeper into things that we talked about, a lot of ideas, or if you want to ask specific questions about how to apply this to your business, I'm game. Of course, we don't have time for everything. And so if you want to take me up on my offer for a free 30-minute implementation call, again, I have nothing to sell you. I just want to be of as much service and as much value as I can. Go to missiondrivenimpact.com/SEA, book a time on my calendar, and we'll jam out together. So thank you very much. And I don't know how you want to do Q&A. I'll check the chat real quick, but if anyone wants to unmute, shout it out, we can go ahead and do things that way as well. Just real quick, I see something in the chat. Will this recording and slides be sent following the session? I am not recording on my end. I know that SEA folks are, and so I'll follow up on that. And then, yes, if you would like slides, I didn't even think about that. You can go ahead and email me, Zach, Z-A-C-H, @missiondrivenimpact.com. Or I can't believe I didn't say this. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. I'm there all day, every day. Look me up on LinkedIn, and I can get it to you that way as well. Next question in the chat is, should your social enterprise mission be different or same to the company mission? Masa, what I would love for you to do is unmute if you can and explain a little bit about the connection between the social enterprise and the company mission. That'll help me help you a little bit more. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Zach. This has been a great session. I just had a question pertaining to essentially a new social impact department that a company I work for has just started. So the company itself is a fashion global brand luxury business, and they are starting up a social impact side. However, some of the thinking is to develop that into either a nonprofit or a social enterprise. And some of my work has been to create a mission, a vision, the values for this department. And what I've done is kind of branch out of the company's mission and built a mission separate for the social impact side. And I just wanted to know if that's like a standard practice. Should the two be the same? Should they be different? When you talk about the social enterprise coming out of the company's mission.
Cool. Okay. That helps a lot. Thanks for sharing. And that's a great question. I think for me, I'm thinking about this casually, not from like a legal perspective or anything like that. It kind of sounds like two different entities, right? I mean, they're related, right? They're affiliated, but you got the company side, you got kind of this almost like CSR, corporate social responsibility, social impact side. And so if you want to think about creating two different missions, I would say, sure. I think starting with something like that framework of by this date, we're going to achieve this result because of this reason. I think that's a good thing. I mean, even if you're in a corporate company, like even every department can just have like its own mission. There's something that we use in our messaging a lot called a one-liner. It comes out of the brand script framework. And that 7-part, character has a problem, that whole section. And a one-liner is sort of like a truncated version of that. Like, here is the problem that we solve and for who. Here's a quick outline of our solution, and here's the happy ending. And I think, Masa, it might be really helpful for you, especially if you have a team under you or there's multiple people who are going to be coming together for this project, to think about what is our one-liner. For instance, in my company, we say, things like a lot of social impact founders really struggle to get the word out. So I run a communications training and education company that empowers them to spread the word and implement a really simple strategic communications and marketing plan into their business. And that way they can increase their revenue and make the impact that they really feel called to make in the world, right? I mean, that wasn't scripted. I just kind of came up with that in my head.
Really good.
It's pretty descriptive of what we do. And so for something like you know, what's the problem you solve? Give me a quick outline of your solution. Why does it matter? The function of that, again, isn't just a marketing or branding exercise. That's going to unify your team. Everyone is going to know what they are working toward together. And I could say more about that, but that is one of the most powerful things you could have in a team is unity, right? And so going through that exercise will really help with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And it sounds like, because I'm comparing it to the slogan, so this will be a little different from the slogan. It sounds more of like a value proposition or why we exist to do this thing. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say so. I think a slogan is more of a, again, I always just think about political platforms and things like that. Yes, we can. And, I think having a slogan is cool for that, even just for smaller campaigns, end of year giving campaigns or something like that. Yeah, the one liner I think would be more what you said, like, what is the reason that we're doing this, right? Again, if I really love laying in bed in the morning. I'm one of those people that hits snooze like 85 trillion times every morning. And so it's like, I'm like every morning, it doesn't matter how cool my life is, doesn't matter what great, I mean, I could literally be going out and like saving all of humanity today. I would still hit snooze unless I remembered, oh yeah, here's the mission. Here's the thing. A lot of people are struggling with this problem. And so I'm contributing to this solution. And here's why it matters. Great. I'm out of bed. Let's go. Right. That's the power that's going to have for your team.
That's good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Real quick, Jennifer. Yes, the book recommendation is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. That's a great, I think, a just very practical, very simple overview of a brand messaging framework that you can put together for your business. Another book that comes to my mind right away is called Stories That Stick, which is kind of telling stories. Russell Brunson has a book called Expert Secrets, which is another great book on storytelling. And of course, you're welcome to take me up on the implementation call, missiondriven.com/SEA, and we can kind of talk through that as well. I'd love to help you out. Anything else coming up? Feel free to unmute. I know we've got a few minutes here. Shout it out. Let's jam out. Any questions about diving more specifically into things that we talked about today, or how to apply this specifically to a situation you're in your business?
Hey, Zach, I've got a question for you.
Go for it.
I work in the social impact space, but for a large corporation. And I find myself using corporate buzzwords and talking with vernacular that I feel like is only understood by people that, like, I say things like, we built capacity for, and we did these things. And people that aren't in the space, they look at me with two heads, and I struggle to get out of my own way. Any suggestions you have about how to improve, I guess, expanding your language, connecting with other people, and getting out of the corporate speak as you're trying to do this?
Sure, a bunch. Real quick, just tell me, who is it that you're talking to usually? Who are these messages for?
So typically we're trying to connect with the business within our own company or with other customers to validate why we are investing in social impact work.
Why is it important to them? I mean, that doesn't sound like something you would have just started doing, or your company would have just started doing without talking to some people first. What did you learn?
Why is it important to them? It's a great question. I think from my standpoint, it's because this is important because it builds trust. And we can only do business in the context of the world that we live in. And I want people outside of the social impact space to understand why it matters to invest in, and like, here I go, invest in people and planet, right? I say the same things over again, and I get stuck using what I feel like are the phrases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're simple and they stick.
Yeah. Well, first of all, That's important, right? I wouldn't totally discount a lot of buzzwords they're buzzwords for a reason, right? But it is very annoying and sometimes less effective if we can't use them properly. I would say, based on the way you just answered my question, not even just what you said, but the way you answered it, right? I said, why is it important to them? And you said, well, from my standpoint, I would pick up the phone and just talk to a lot of people. For you specifically, and for anyone else who's in a related position, have conversations with these people, right? The most important thing we can do is, this is an old, I don't know if you want to call it a copywriting trick. It's not really a trick. It's sort of like a best practice, is use the language that they're using, right? I'm not going to say I'm not an accredited investor or things like that, but I would just say, let's say I'm giving a donation to a climate change nonprofit or something. And I really do believe in investing in people and planet. If you interviewed me for like 5 hours, I probably would never, ever, ever, ever have said that, right? Unless it was like on a poster in front of me or something, like subliminal messaging. Like, I just would have never, even though I really deeply care about investing in people and planet, if you were like, yo, Zach, why did you give this donation? I'd never be like, you know what? It's just so important to invest in people and planet. I would probably say something like, I really care about the fact that Earth is our home. I have a sort of religious or spiritual background. And so I believe that, we have a calling to be good stewards of nature and creation, what we've been given. That's what I would say. What would your people say? Then you start to use that sort of language. Of course, we can talk about all these sort of little hacks and searching Amazon reviews and looking through Google and getting voice of customer data. Really what it just comes down to is have the right conversations and listen. When you talk, that is going to be a form of listening. And people will say, I get this all the time, when you do it right, people say, wow, you really read my mind. No, I didn't. I just listened to what you said and I just said it back to you. It's really it. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Let me just check the chat real quick. I see Sharon's in a similar boat. Business services hub, direct service providers. Yeah, totally get it. Not that business services hub aren't important, but I hope that was a valuable answer for you as well. Cool. And thanks everyone for the kind words we have popping in the chat as well. It really means a lot to me. I'm glad this has been valuable. Cool. All right. Anything else? Anyone else want to unmute? Tell me about, time is yours. Tell me about something that's happening in your business. How can I help?
Hey, Zach.
What's up, Paul? How you doing?
Hey, well, so I am a registered investment advisor, and my question is that I am struggling with messaging two different things. On the one hand, I have a program that can help people obtain overall financial well-being. But on the other hand, this program also has the ability to fight income inequality. So I guess I'm struggling with where should I guide people? Should I guide them to financial well-being, or should I guide people towards, hey, this is an approach that's different than a political one that can help fight income inequality?
That's a really good question. And I think there's also an element of business strategy and stuff like that comes into play here. So maybe it warrants a little bit of a longer conversation, but the first question I'd ask is the people that you are talking to, what is it that they care about on a personal level, like their own journey of what they're trying to achieve, right? That first journey transformation. Are they saying, I want a solution to this that's not political? Are they saying something else?
Well, people are frustrated with the political process, and they feel like they have no voice, which is also backed up by studies showing that the average American has a non-statistical impact on public policy. So that's where a big frustration is. I don't talk to a lot of people who will say, yeah, I'm frustrated. I wish I had more money. necessarily. That's not the crowd really I'm involved in. But there's also a huge stigma around money. And a lot of people who I talk to feel like money is kind of evil, maybe, or only bad people are wealthy. And so it's trying to fuse the two, I find is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is sort of the same group of stakeholders, just maybe different diversity of opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. What I would do, I think this would be cool to have a little bit of a longer conversation with you, but I think that what I would, the first thing I would recommend, or a hunch I would say, is actually step back into why you were doing what you're doing, or I don't know if you're the founder of this company or things like that, or, you know, what is the reason that we set out to do this thing? Go back to like that founder story almost as, you know, one archetype of the story. And it's like, we did this because we believed in something, right? We saw maybe one gap, right? And it's like, in the process of doing so, we've attracted people with the diversity opinions, people who are attracted to us for different reasons. Definitely not a bad thing, but there is something that we always stood for, right? Maybe that would give you a door into what you want people to rally around. And I think more than that, it'd just be authentic, right? I think there's so much to be said about listening to the market and like really speaking to their pains and their desires and stuff like that. But there's also something about when you are authentically you and you speak your truth, the right people come. And it sounds like that's already happened. Maybe it's just a matter of being a little bit more clear. Is that an adequate answer to your question, at least for now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I appreciate the time. Yeah, thank you, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Cool. I've got maybe one more question here in the chat, and then I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Jesse says, what advice or messaging when what you do meets at the intersection of opposing ideas? That sounds really interesting. Jesse, would you mind just unmuting and telling me just for a second a little bit more about that?
I'll try to make it uncomplicated, and I apologize in advance. I sprained my foot, so I'm not in a professional setting.
You're great.
So I am a coach, a trainer, a consultant, and I move everywhere from working with U.S. veterans to federal executives who work in security and law enforcement, to nonprofit executives who are into race relations. And I find myself often trying to figure out how, and by the way, this is a shoemaker's daughter story, right? So my background, in fairness, I worked at an ad agency. I was in branding. I can't seem to do it for myself. So for anybody else who may share something similar, what do we do when it's not that we're really offering separate services per se, consulting, coaching, all that. We're still trying to basically find clarity in conflicting situations, right? We're helping to find clarity for people who need that clarity. However, our audiences, when you touched on it, like politically, our audiences are really different. Like I had a coaching session the other day with somebody who is at the federal level, one step aside from law enforcement, right, who feels one way about the world. And then I had a coaching session the very same day with an executive director for a nonprofit whose mission has to do with preserving the authenticity of a particular nationality, right? So when we're looking at how we message what we do, and we are literally messaging it opposing ideas. Like some people who, well, that doesn't exist, you know, we don't do that stuff. And other people are like, well, you totally do that stuff. What, I mean,
Yeah.
I know this is a very, very deep thing, but I'm imagining there are many of us on this call that might actually hit at this or bump against this.
For sure, for sure. And out of respect for time, I'll be a little bit quick on this, but I'll make sure that it answers your questions. That I think the core issue that most of us probably struggle with is, how do we just talk to multiple stakeholders in general, right? Multiple stakeholders have different interests, right? And so one thing that I walk through my clients with is, the first thing we do is our messaging for our organization as a whole. Kind of what I just recommended to Paul is like, what is our organization's mission? what is the overarching theme in all of this? And then we can also break up different marketing materials, of course, different advertisements, as you know already, and things like that. We can target different demographics and have targeted messaging for each of them. It sounds like maybe for you, work backwards from that. It sounds like because I get the sense that the different messaging for the stakeholders. Let's go level up. What is the overarching theme that unifies all of us? Just to give you a quick example, I had a client forever ago, so I hope I'm not too hazy on the details, but she'd been working on this branding issue for years that essentially just came down to, how do I talk to different stakeholders with different interests when we're providing the same service and kind of to the same end, but they want different things and they talk about them differently. We want to be able to reach them. And I said, well, the thing is, and it was like a conflict resolution nonprofit, and so I was like, the thing that unifies this for you is like culture. Businesses that you come into, it's like the thing that they want is a better culture. And what that means is different to different people, right? But that is the common thread that we need to start talking about and tease things out from there. And so for you, what I would do is I would start with where you're at, which is, I know this stakeholder wants this and says it like this. I know this stakeholder wants this and says it like this. There's something in common, or they both wouldn't be tied to you, right? So identify what that is. What is that common problem? Speak from your heart and your voice as to why that is important to you and why you do what you do. And then you can start to break up, different marketing materials, different advertisements, different landing pages, different email sequences, segments, stuff like that, based on your targeted messaging. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you. I tried to chat. I think I sent it privately to you. Somebody once called me the culture whisperer. So
Awesome.
it's
There we
yes.
go.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really good point. It's not easy when we serve very, not just different targets, but targets that don't always agree. And yet, as you pointed to much earlier, our hearts, like who we are as social entrepreneurs, like our hearts are like, it's okay. It's okay. We just really want to help. We just have to make sure that we don't discount one for the other through our messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for being on the call. Thanks for a great Q&A. Two things. One is that, remember, of course, the theme of the day is communication is the foundation of all successful movements. And that is absolutely the case for your business and your org as well. If you want to talk more about anything that we've covered today, how to apply this specifically to your business, your organization, do book a half-hour call with me. Again, I have nothing to sell you. I'll let you know if we're a good fit, but that's absolutely not a sales call. It's just, I want to be of as much value as I possibly can to you. missiondrivenimpact.com/SEA. If you can't remember that, it's where you are today. So missiondrivenimpact.com/SEA. Anything else, I'll trust that y'all will get a hold of me via email or via LinkedIn. Anyone who's interested, I'll send slides, and hope to chat with a lot of you later. It's been a really cool session. I appreciate it.